Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. with roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye, here.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Here.
Mr. Heyman,
Present.
Mr. Gorman.
Here.
We have 4 present with Mr. Blades just going to be a little bit late. He'll come in during closed session.
Okay. Next item is our approval of our agenda. Are there any changes, or can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and second.
We have our clickers, but Mr. Blades isn't here, so we'll do, okay, well, let's go and see what
Oh,
happens.
okay.
Can we go without him? No, nope, roll call.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Bruin,
Here, aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Gorman.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item is any public comment on our closed session. We have 4 items in our closed session today. We have pending litigation, Finley versus City of Ridgecrest, pending litigation, Todd via Dilda, pending litigation, Holland versus City of Ridgecrest, and pending litigation in accordance with Government Code 54956.92. Is there any public comment on any of the closed session items? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment session. We'll adjourn to closed session. We'll return at 6 p.m. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting back into session out of closed session. And we'll go ahead and begin today by asking everyone to please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Chief Scott, if you'd lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Rajaratnam, if you'd lead us in the invocation, please.
Please join me in prayer, if you would. Lord, thank you for giving us this day. Lord, thank you for the responsibility which you have given to the City Council to take care of many issues which involve this community, Lord. Lord, pray for our country. Lord, give your direction to the leaders of our country, Lord. Lord, pray for our troops who are in harm's way. Protect them from all evil. Pray for our police department who serve this community day in and day out. Lord, protect them and bless their families, Lord. Lord, bless each one of us who are here. Lord, as we discuss many issues pertaining to this community, Lord, give us your wisdom so that we make the right decisions, Lord. May we always put the interest of this community above anything else, Lord. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Oh, Chief is here. Okay, first item on our agenda this evening is our attorney report out of closed session. Martin?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Of all the items in closed session, only one was reportable, and that is Council unanimously rejected the Anderson claim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If I could ask my fellow council members to now join me down at the podium. We have some employee service awards to present. Apologize for my speed getting down here. So every couple months we get an opportunity to recognize those employees that reach important levels of service. So this is an opportunity to recognize all those with at least in 5-year increments of service to the City of Ridgecrest. I know that 2 of our recipients are here, but I'm going to go and recognize the other ones who are not here. First, Ms. Lavette Allagood, who has completed 5 years of service to the City of Ridgecrest. Alan Jones, who's completed 5 years of service with the City of Ridgecrest. Matt Rowland, who's completed 10 years of service with the City of Ridgecrest. And then our final 2 have completed 15 years of service, and both are here to be recognized. We thank them for 15 years, in our lives, we don't seem like it's a long time, but in an employer's life, it means a lot. It means that that person has not only learned the tasks, but they're skilled and understand so many of the different aspects that you can't even put a value on. So the first one I'd like to recognize is Lori Blowers, who's completed 15 years of service with the City of Ridgecrest. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for everything you do. And stay there, Lori, because we're going to take a picture. And then our second one goes without saying, the role that she has, especially for the city council, is our esteemed city clerk, Miss Rika Charland, who's celebrating 15 years of service. There you go. Okay, don't knock me over, though. We all like you. And more importantly, once again, our thanks to all of our dedicated employees and everything they do to help support our community. And trust me, years of service matters. It means a lot to the community. It means a lot to the organization. I wanted to get a picture. Can we have, who can do, you're going to do photos? Thank you. If I can have everyone come on up, if we can get a quick photo.
I think Lori and I were just talking, we were hard within a week of each other.
You are?
Yeah.
Was that,
I was tentative.
I don't know if that was a good week or a bad week now in retrospect, but.
Of course not. Yep.
Not even bother.
Jessica, I'm sad we can't take my picture. I'm sorry. I know.
Thank you. I put the other ones up there, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you again to all of our incredible employees and for their dedicated service to our community. Next on our agenda is our public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Council will not respond to any public comment, but may provide direction to staff to collect information. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not act on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his name, and we'll begin with public comment from the floor. Look at you.
Okay, Jessica Weston, Ridgecrest resident. I just wanted to let everyone know who didn't happen to read the paper last week that I am now working at Saracoso in the Public Information Office. And I just wanted to come back one last time to thank everyone, I'm going to get sad, for always being professional. Especially Rika. So thank you.
Thanks, Jess. We're going to still, trust me, we need information from the college on the regular, so we're still going to see plenty of you.
And you can still come visit anytime.
Thank you, sir. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Robert Blackwell, and I was here 2 weeks ago, and I'm here tonight as a spokesman for the Kaiwatsu tribe. I'm joined by two members, senior members of the tribe right here, who are here tonight observing. I wanted to open my remarks tonight and to ask all in attendance to stand for a minute of silence for the tens of thousands of Kaiwatsu members who have been enslaved and killed since 1950 in Kern County. Thank you for sharing this moment.
You're requesting that we stand up?
I'm just like you did at the beginning for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, I've offered that as an opportunity. It's a free country, you can do what you like. The reason that I brought the senior tribal members, I spoke last week and I observed the city manager reading a one-page handout from the Kwaisu tribe and laughing at a time, while he was reading it. And I thought it was insensitive, inappropriate, and hopefully it's not indicative of the way the city treats tribal rights and tribal members. Okay, but thank you for standing. It's really important. I'd like to go on to a couple questions that the tribe has for the city council. And let me just hand out these, and you guys can have a copy of them all. I understand that this is a legislative, or I guess, entity, and you're not the actual administrative arm of the city. But we have just a series of questions. Last time I was here, we raised the issue of the tribe believes some of the art in the city is insulting to the history and cultural of the Kwaisu. And I just wanted to reach out and remind people, I don't know what the proper format is, to start a dialogue about looking at the art in the city to make sure it's appropriate for the city displaying something that may be insensitive to the tribal members. The second question is, there's a lot of information about what's appropriate under California and federal law to how you take Native art and display it. They have civil and criminal penalties. They have, the state of California has a whole board that reviews this. And I just think that we need to start this process. And we want to open this communication lines to the city to hopefully get some resolution over time. We also have discovered that certain members of the city council might have been involved in producing and selling to the city art without the permission of the tribe. This is clearly inappropriate. The art and the petroglyphs were drawn by the Kwaisu people. No one has the right to reproduce it without their approval. And that also goes for the city. So I didn't know all this stuff until I started getting involved and reading more and more about it. But things might have been done in 2014 and 15 that people didn't realize was culturally insensitive. And but we're in 2023, and the city and the city council has a choice to be either on the right side of history or on the wrong side of history. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment from the floor? Yeah, please.
Okay, hello, gentlemen, the council, Mr. Mayor. My name is George Saad. I just moved to the city 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, and I'm trying to do some business here. The reason I'm here now is I have some ups and downs with the business. When I came first to the city members, they helped me a lot. They were very nice. They showed me direction. They gave me everything. They even gave me papers what to do. So I sent to the ABC, and it was some lags in there, but in the end, we got the license. I'm opening a lounge bar, which is a wine bar, actually, upscale. So it's in this area, which was approved by the city and everything. In July 10th, I get the city license. Now, when we finished with the ABC, I went to the health. When the health came, to my surprise, they said, we don't exist in the records. So they blocked us. They sent to the city. The city tried their best. The staff here, honestly, I just want to thank them all for everything. Their engineer came, they're trying their best, everything. But now the things they're asking me is like as if I'm starting from zero. I started in April. It's been 9 months now. So, excuse me. The thing is, I want to say, I don't have any more in me or financial or the, mental to keep going like this. So I'm trying my best to open the place, and I cannot open it now. Now they're asking me for, plans, for things. We contacted the owner. The owner sent plans from 1992, and the place was rented for years for a lot of people, a lot of, client, a lot of, customer, whatever, came in. It was a pasta, it was a lounge, it was, I don't know what it was. Everybody says something. But the place was there for years, since 92, and it was stamped by the health. And now the health, they says they don't have anything, and what they need, just a paper from the city confirming that this place exists. Now the city just sending asking me for other things. They start asking me for, blueprints, plans, everything. They're trying to go by the book, or they're trying to do something. I understand, and I appreciate the staff. I appreciate everybody, but I am getting hurt. I'm a small family. I'm a small business, I just wanted to put food on my family's table. I just came here to open a lounge, and it's an upscale. It's not like a bar or, sports bar. It's totally different than what we have here. I spent a year studying the market, seeing what we need. So that's what I came up with. But now I'm not going to finish for the request what the city is asking me for. Not for another 6 months. By the time I finish with the city, the health is still to approve or not. I already have license by the city since July 10th. And I paid for the license. Now the license is going to be over by the end of December. Another license I have to pay for. The license of the ABC is going to end soon. So I don't know what to do, and I'm not open. I didn't even make a penny. My place is ready. It's all fancy. It's upscale, everything. What's lacking now is the health department. And they said there is no record whatsoever in their files. So if there is discrepancy between, with all due respect, between the city and the county and the states, I shouldn't bear it because I didn't do anything. If the owner, he doesn't know, he's ready. He said, it's been rented before. And they paid taxes, they paid everything. Now for me, I'm stuck. So I'm pleading for you just to give me an interim, approval or something just to open and just to start at least, stand on my feet again and whatever, or facilitate, speed up the process to give just a letter to the health department saying that, yes, this place existed since 1992. If they don't have it in the record, I don't know what to do. I have honestly until now, so I'm putting it in your hands to help me, honestly. Just let me open the place and let me serve the community. I'm going to hire people. I'm going to pay taxes. It's good for all of us. And honestly, now I'm becoming, after 9 months, I don't know what to say. I'm really tight. So thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I bothered you for everything. And thanks to the city staff. Thank you all for giving me the chance even to talk and to open a business in this town. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, George. Is there any other public comment from the floor?
Good evening. I'm Troy Charles Frazier, 44 years old. Good evening, City Council and Mayor Bruin. Talk a little bit about public safety tonight. And just as an opener, did you ever realize if you were to lower, the country or the world to lower the number of days in a year by 1 day, we could use the same calendar every year. Anyway, the most dangerous intersection in Ridgecrest is Ridgecrest Boulevard to the east and Sunland. So I was in my truck a couple months ago, almost got T-bone smashed on my driver's side. And good thing I wait for them to stop before I go. And if we could fix that with like a flashing stop sign and a fake security camera, people might think they might get a ticket in the mail, they would be more likely to stop because this person ran the stop sign at 55 miles an hour, seemed like. If it's less than $300, I'll pay for it. And the next thing is big dogs inside Walmart. It's a epidemic that's keeps on growing and growing out of proportions. I understand there's for disability people that are blind or something close to that, but people are just taking advantage, and it's a little scary and disgusting if you ask me. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment from the floor? Okay, is there any public comment on the phones? I think that means no. I'm going to give it just a moment for our phone, for anybody out there on on YouTube. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section. Our next item on the agenda is our council announcements and direction. This is where we can address anything within the public comment section. Mr. Frazier, I just wanted to make sure, have you addressed Caltrans in any way, or can we assist you in that? Because the Ridgecrest Boulevard in that direction is actually Highway 178. It is not the city of Ridgecrest specifically in terms of managing the roadway. And I just didn't know if we could assist you in some way to make contact with that. Okay, I'm misread. I know would be happy to help in that contact. And then for Mr. and Mrs. Syed, I know we've spoken more than a few times, and I understand the challenges that you are definitely going through. I still have to leave it in the hands of our city staff in order to hopefully assist you as we've been trying to as much as possible. I understand the frustrations. I wanted to ask, have you reached out to County Supervisor Peters as of yet? Okay, I would like to help make contact, and I'll be happy. I have your email. I'll be happy to provide you a contact to their field rep is a gentleman by the name of Cody Criswell. And again, when it comes to County Health Department, all we can do is encourage them to get involved in the process, but our authority over them is, and I will, but we're more than happy to continue to try and assist you as much as possible, as I know Mr. Reed has been trying to, and I don't know if you guys have had a chance to formally meet, but you know, hopefully there can be some constructive conversations in some way to help. The only other one I wanted to just briefly, and then I'll just move to my fellow council members, is I wanted the opportunity to go first and thank my fellow council members as well as our city staff. Thank you. Seems like it's only been a month, but it seems like it's been forever since I've been up here on the dais, and thank you for allowing me to be absent. I did have surgery and I'm on the mend, but thank you guys for everything you did in terms of communicating with me while I was out, and as always doing the spectacular job you're doing. And then finally, a plea and request, and please share word of mouth and let everyone know we've got an incredible tree lighting event coming up this Friday night at our Kerr-McGee Center and outside here. We're getting ready to have quite a wonderful holiday party with our community. We hope to see you here from 5 to 9. This is, you know, every year we've tried to improve the tree lighting, and if the first one I did in 2021 to where we're at in 2023, it would have been like doing a 4x multiplier in the first year and doing a 25x multiplier for this year. So we've got a lot planned, and I look forward to seeing so many of you out there, and I hope you'll come out and participate. With that, I will go ahead and pass on to my fellow council members. I will start with you, Mr. Heyman. Any council announcements?
I have none.
Mr. Gorman.
I do. I'm looking forward to hearing that your tree lighting can be seen from low Earth orbit. So,
Maybe.
over the last dozen years, I've been making trophies for the Over the Hill Track Club that has a premier event in early December. Indeed, the Ultra, the Over the Hill Track Club Ultra, which is a 50K, which is a little over a marathon, 26-mile marathon, and a 30K, which is a little less. A crowd is going to gather in the cold gray dawn this coming Saturday up in the Spangler Hills just behind the college. And it'll be one of those small town spectacles that we bask in the glory of, along with colorful sunrises and sunsets. There's quite a crowd out there. And I think it'll be facilitated by other activities like our film commission. What's that? You guys refer to it as?
RACVB?
Yeah, sure. RACVB. Visitors Bureau for short, I'm hearing. They helped facilitate some of this, and God bless them for it. And I'm going to be out there shivering, but not running. I've signed Eric up to run the marathon part.
Right on that.
I thought I'd mention it. Yeah. There we go. Somebody that actually did the Boston Marathon. Wow, congratulations. See what happens when I talk? That's all for me.
Councilman Rajaratnam.
None.
And Councilman Blades.
Yeah, I was going to say it now instead of after, but Jessica left just to express my appreciation for her service. When I got on the council in 2019, she was always very forthcoming, very honest. You could go to Jessica with questions, and she also left things out intelligently. I mean that in the very best way. It was never it was never a cover of any, it wasn't like she was covering things up. It was like she could see through the meetings. She had a very, very good eye for what was really happening and what was going on, and she did a very good job of reporting that. And I'm sorry to see her go, so I appreciate that. All the rest of my comments were it looks like you already talked to Travis about those. Ridgecrest Boulevard and Sunland, I don't know if that's, Travis, if that's really, we could talk about it at the next infrastructure meeting, but we could talk to the police and see if there's something we can go off of. There's a thread we can pull there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 178, it's
Caltrans.
I don't have any jurisdiction to change anything.
Understood, but police will have a count probably if there's been accidents.
Yeah, we can get
Yep,
Sure, we can get some
thanks.
data.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, sir. Okay, next is our consent calendar. All items listed on the consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before action is taken. I will now read the two consent items. First item is proposed action to approve the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council regular meeting dated November 15th, 2023. And the second one is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest adopting Caltrans Local Assistant Procedures Manual Chapter 10 Consultant Section. Do any members of the council wish to have an item pulled? Hearing none, does any member of the public wish to have an item pulled? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second. We're using the doohickeys.
Yes, please vote.
Doohickey.
Well, vote with your doohickey. Yeah, there you go. Motion carries, 5 ayes.
Thank you very much. So next item is our discussion items for this evening. We have 5 of them to go through this evening. The first one is item number 4. This is a grant acceptance for a grant awarded from the University of California, Davis School of Veterinary Medicine. Chief Scott.
Mayor Bruno, City Council members, staff, and community. In 2022, Brown Control received a grant as part of the pilot program from the University of California, Davis School of Veterinary Medicine in the amount of $147,000. This program was to increase the spay and neuter program in our city. As a result, our animal control provided approximately 2,300 spay and neuters. Due to our successful program, UC Davis asked us to submit paperwork for a continuation grant. Wow. Our staff submitted the grant paperwork, and I'm pleased to announce that the shelter has been awarded $562,441 to continue our strong efforts on our spay and neuter program. This additional grant not only focuses on spay and neutering, but also provides for additional necessary surgeries discovered during the spay and neuter process. There's also an additional, or there's also part of this money, a little over $55,000 is for surgery and medical supplies to support and assist the mobile veterinary clinics that come on in. This is a very unusual grant that we are not on the hook for anything. There's no strings attached. We have no matching funds that we have to put out. The only thing that is required of us is at the end of the program, next December, we have to submit just the stats that ACO services that they provided. So they said they send us a check. In fact, they've already sent us a check. I am available to answer any questions regarding this.
Okay.
Chief,
Any
did
questions
I-
for council?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did I hear that amount right? 562K?
541,000, yeah,
Wow,
$441.
that's wonderful news.
I think this is the first in my lifetime that I've ever seen a grant with no strings attached.
You haven't read the fine print yet, probably, in the contract.
He's got to ruin it.
The $1 million question is Mary happy?
Yes, yes, yes.
Again, this is a great, getting services in for helping our animal shelter and making improvements are always beneficial. And is there any other council comments? I have no other comments. Is there any public comment? Please.
Come on up.
Can I have you come up to the microphone so that, because we have people on YouTube,
The only way that they can hear is if you're
that's the only way
talking to
they
a
can
mic.
hear.
Thank you.
I was just curious, you have to get permission to accept these grants? Or was that, like, you were stating that?
We bring it to city council
There
to,
has to be an action by the city council
To
accepting
accept it
that grant.
Really?
for all grants.
So he just got donated 500,000, he needs your guys' permission to accept it?
Yeah, so if I can, Ricky, so Martin, Ricky has been seeking to understand local government, and so he's been coming to like committee meetings. This is just him digging down, trying to make sure he understands the process and how things are working. Correct?
He's writing a
Yeah.
paper, I think.
Yeah, I'm writing a paper for college.
Right.
And for my professor, I'm here to write to the professor how my city government works, and she asked me to come in here. But I was just curious, so hypothetically, if I wrote a check for 500,000 to the animal shelter, you have to bring it before the city council to get it accepted? Is that the understanding?
Yeah, part of the reason for this is that since we're accepting the money, we have to have a mechanism to enter it into our budget as revenue received and listed as an expenditure. So part of the resolution process is accepting the grant as well as entering it into our budget system.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
but,
so we can spend the money.
okay, so if it got accepted, it would go straight to there, it wouldn't go somewhere else, right? Or
Correct. These funds are earmarked.
Okay.
We can't take them and spend it on play equipment. This has to go specifically for this
specifically to
purpose.
that? Okay, thank you.
Good question.
That was a great question. I just wanted to commend you on working for local government. Well, I'm bring it back to council in 2 seconds. Is there any other public comment or question? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. I believe Councilman Heyman had a question.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I just want to say congratulations to everybody involved at the animal shelter, and particularly to Lauren Brown for seeking out that first grant, because that sure did lead into a great, productive venture for the animal shelter. So I'm always hats off to folks that are doing their due diligence and looking for grants that help, whatever, in the city capacity or in other state or city organizations. But I've seen it work really positively, and this is a prime example of it. So good job, everyone.
Yeah, I was going to pose a question, and this is for Ricky as well as for myself, is also isn't one of the elements is because University of California, Davis is granting possibly public funds to public funds versus private funds to public funds. If you were personally writing it from your personal checking account, it would go through our PACT program as a donation to the shelter or to that organization compared to public funds to public funds?
That is correct. And,
Okay.
and I am certain that at some level, UC Davis needs some kind of affirmation from the city that these funds were received and are going to be used for the purpose, and action by the council accomplishes that.
Because they may have received a public grant that, let's say they received a $10 million public grant to disperse or to support other processes through the veterinary school of medicine. And so they need then a resolution from that other public agency that then is taking whatever component portion is being then used for that purpose compared to personal dollars, what would be physically donated to PACT.
But regardless, public or private, you guys have to approve it.
A private donation, we would not have to, unless we were adding it into the budget for budgetary purposes. So if we said we know we got this donation, we're going to include it into the budget now for them to provide this service, then we would have to approve by resolution that change to the budget.
And we're open to test that theory, so if anybody would like to.
Yeah, yes,
check
we
to the
are,
city.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If anybody has $500,000, wants to donate it to our animal shelter and is seeking for us to make sure that we do this absolutely properly, we will be happy to step through any hoop possible to make sure that they have the resources they need. We're outside of public comment, but I'm more than happy to let you, ma'am. I'm more than happy to let you, please.
My name is Lena Saad. It's regarding the animal shelter, actually. I've always been an animal advocate. And for us pet owners in Ridgecrest, we are facing a problem of not being able to get proper vet, services. And there is no emergency clinic around. If there's an emergency for your pet, and I know a lot of us, we love our pets like our children, we have to run with them to either Lancaster, Palmdale, or Bakersfield for that, and that's a long way. So I was wondering if there could be an emergency clinic at the animal shelter, since there are funds available now.
I think the biggest challenge, and I'll let Chief Scott address it, I believe the biggest challenge that we still have is the definition of emergency typically requires 24/7 support.
Yes, I understand.
And we would need to find both the veterinarian that was willing to set up that support, and on a one-time grant, we wouldn't be able to, we would have it set up and then it would be unfunded just as quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. I've worked as a volunteer at an animal shelter in another country, and they had a clinic. And the clinic was actually a source of income for them. Okay, they had it open 24/7 as an emergency clinic and regular clinic services, and it was an income for them because they only lived on donations. The other source of income for them was donations. But the clinic was a source of income for them. So if funds are available now in a hefty amount, maybe a small clinic can be,
And these funds are specifically restricted
Just for
to only
spays and
for the
neuters.
spay and neutering. And when they're doing the spay and neutering, if they determine that the animal needs some type of surgery, there's some specific ones in there while they're doing that. If they discover, hernia or mammary gland repair removal. So they've got some other minor things that are on there. It picks that on up. So, it's a lot of money, but when you're talking about doing a few thousand spay and neuter, and then you have possible surgeries on top of that, we'll use that money on up. But it's got to be specifically used for those purposes and those purposes only.
Well, maybe it's something to consider in the future if you have more funds coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing I always do is I would love to see more of these services come to our community. There is a demand. If anybody's out there on YouTube land watching and you're a veterinarian, you're looking for a wonderful community with a good cost of living and you don't mind it's in the state of California, we would love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
And so back to council. Do I have is there any other council comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have motion and second. Roll call.
Please vote. And we got them in there. Motion carries 5 ayes.
Okay, item number 5 is proposed action to adopt a resolution of the city of the Ridgecrest City Council authorizing submittal of application for Cal Cycle SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant for fiscal year 22-23. Ms. McKenzie.
Hello. Yes, so anybody who is around for the first round of Cal Recycle funding, this will be relatively familiar. So this is the second round of funding that's becoming available. We have submitted an application. It is a non-competitive grant cycle, as with the first round. This round, they're looking to allocate around $75,000 for the projected award. The cycle and the guidelines were very similar to the first round, a little bit more robust this time around, being the second time. And so me and City Manager Strand discussed potential expenditures for that grant program, assuming that Cal Recycle approves our application. And we had determined that the best use of those funds would be to help support our edible food recovery efforts, which is the main goal of this round of funding. And so based on that and conversations with our main food recovery organization, which is Salvation Army, we are looking to use those funds to purchase a refrigerated vehicle, which will help them with their collection and distribution of edible food. That's something that they have been expressed is a critical need for them, and they would be willing to help us with matching funds if necessary. If that, obviously, a refrigerated truck runs a bit more than $75,000 on average. So we did have some preliminary discussions, and pending the approval from Cal Recycle, that's something that we think would be a good use of grant funds that would benefit the community. We also were looking at using a smaller percentage of that to invest in some food recovery software, which would make it easier for people to determine where their food recovery organizations are, what they accept, and also help the communication between those different organizations, which are primarily volunteer-based. A lot of them are smaller churches and food pantries, but again, Salvation Army kind of acts as the main arm that supports all of those smaller pantries. So I think any support we could give them would definitely benefit those food recovery efforts as a whole. So this is just a resolution to essentially apply for to put in a resolution saying that the city manager has the authority to execute the documents in terms of grant management. And then I believe I covered everything. Oh, one other thing I haven't mentioned yet is another small portion of those funds will be used to procure 3 stream collection bins for the public spaces around the city facilities. So things like City Hall, the Kerr-McGee, and those things, so that we can really lead by example in terms of how to sort and manage your 3-stream recycling system. So that is what we are proposing to do. I will go ahead and pause if there's any questions, and I'm happy to provide more detail as needed. One thing, the reason we're bringing this to council now is that as part of the grant application process, we are required to provide an approved resolution by December 20th to be considered for this round of funding. So that's what's in front of you guys today.
Thank you, Megan, and I do apologize. I try not to do that during council meetings, but the Boy Scouts are getting kicked out of the Elks Parade, and I'm trying to fix that right now. My apologies. I just wanted to be, I wanted to acknowledge, I don't like to do that in the middle of a meeting, especially while someone is speaking. It's very rude, and but my phone was going, we're getting kicked out of the Elks Parade, and sorry, my little scouts won't.
I'm no stranger to multitasking. You're okay.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Applying for the grant's fine, but the refrigerator truck.
Yes.
Number one, Is $75,000 really going to get us a refrigerator truck when we can't even get a
No,
truck for
and
$75,000?
and I covered that. 75,000 wouldn't be enough for the full amount, which is why we had some preliminary discussions with Salvation Army. And if we could put up a portion of those funds, they guaranteed us that they would be able to provide the matching funds.
So we essentially are helping Salvation Army
We are
to
essentially-
gain access to it.
Correct. And that,
Okay.
again, is pending CalRecycle approval because part of the conditions of the grant is that we have to have an approved contract with CalRecycle as our food recovery organization. Otherwise, the city would need to own and operate the vehicle. And so it's kind of pending things to fall into the right place in terms of whether the city owns the vehicle or whether we can quote unquote gift that to Salvation Army pending the agreement. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So either the city would own and operate the truck and loan it to Salvation Army to use, or if we have that approved contract with Salvation Army that CalRecycle signs off on, we could give it to them to operate the food recovery efforts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so then all maintenance and things of that nature would not be on us in terms of an ongoing
Correct, as
support.
long as CalRecycle says that, yep, you're good to go, you have this agreement with Salvation Army, it's in writing, so that is all
Yeah. So
pending.
we would be, we're providing fiscal support to help acquire it, but we aren't taking on the obligation of maintaining it and everything else.
That's the idea,
Okay,
essentially.
that's what I wanted to make sure of, is that this is going to be a one-time grant. Are we creating future expense that is unmandated? Any other council comment?
Following up on that same line, that was my concern too, was the O&M cost of the truck once it was purchased. And so, am I clear that it's open that we may keep it or we may give it? Or is it a concrete decision that, if the truck is purchased, that Salvation Army would,
So everything has to go through CalRecycle approval. We haven't even been awarded the funds yet. This is just to even put the application in, because even the round one that we currently have, we still have to check with them for every expenditure, even though it's a eligible expense, and we said we were going to use this money for education outreach, for example, for round one, we still have to take them into every specific proposal. Say we wanted to buy community cleanup gear, I still have to get that specific expenditure approved by our CalRecycle rep. So everything's pending CalRecycle approval because
Okay.
they are the grant manager.
and then my other question was, is this grant just a one-time grant, or is it a future grant process that could be
It's a
applied
one
for
stream
further?
of funding, and it's round two. So last year, we got about, I think we were expected to get 35,000. We ended up getting a little bit extra. I think we got roughly 42,000. And that was because it is a non-competitive grant, so everybody's eligible, assuming they get the resolutions passed. One of the conditions to be eligible for the first round of funding was having that enforceable ordinance in place, which we did, which is why we were able to get not only what the base amount was, but maybe even a little extra depending on how much was left over. So we used that, we chose to do round one for education and outreach, and so that was what it was able to pay for those magnets that we produced, the sorting guide magnets, and some of that outreach and associated events for that.
So is it a grant that'll term out then? I mean, the
Yeah,
program
so
itself?
this round of funding, they're expecting to award it in probably April of next year. If I had to guess, they haven't released the official dates yet for round two. Round one is ending 2024, May 2024, so all of those funds will have to be expended. So it is a one-time round, but it does look like they are continuing to offer this program, if that answers your question.
Pretty much. I just didn't know if in the future past 2026, if it would still be, an opportunity.
I would say yes. I can't say that for certain because I'm not with CalRecycle, but my understanding is it looks like it's a program that's continuing and expanding. It went from 42,000 for our round, and obviously it's based on jurisdiction and demographics and things like that. Obviously, we're not going to get as much as a big city like San Francisco or something, but they do base it on our demographics, so that's how they determine the award.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council comments? Okay. Any public comment? Oh, wait, sorry.
No, that's okay. I think all my answers, we're just authorizing to apply for the grant for the city manager to execute, which is fine with me. And you briefly touched on the intent of the grant. I just wanted to circle back to that real quick. What was the intent from Cal Recycle?
So the intent from CalRecycle, this is our local assistant SB 1383 grant funds. And I was actually on a roundtable with the League of California Cities earlier today, where we were talking kind of about how the SB 1383 legislation's playing out. And I think there's still a lot to be answered in terms of how CalRecycle is going to come to terms with certain things, because obviously this one-size-fits-all approach isn't fitting everywhere. So I think that there's still potential changes that are going to happen. But the funding is designed to support the jurisdictions that are having to bear the cost of implementing this program, essentially. So there's a whole list of eligible cost procedures and all that. So for example, for first round, we knew that this was going to be requiring a lot of change in habits. So we chose to really lean heavily on the education and marketing aspect and the outreach for the last round. This round, again, CalRecycle, in their procedures and guidelines, they made it very clear that edible food recovery was a primary focus that they really wanted these grant funds to be used on, which is why we took the tact of looking more into how we could support those programs.
Understood. I have nothing else.
Okay, is there any public comment? Yeah, please. Please, sir.
Take your time.
I don't know if that's an option for the committee here, but have they considered renting or leasing with option to buy in 3 years and 26 or something?
You mean the
that be an
truck?
option?
Since we would not be the long-term owners, I would leave that in the Salvation Army's hands for their decision on how we would be allocating funds from this grant to help support their mission on food recovery. One of the things that maybe isn't always stated on SB 1383 is one of the things that they did with that legislation, not only did they implement the organic trash requirement pickup, but they also put several requirements for how we have to recover food from restaurants, from locations, from things of that nature, in addition to how much recyclable materials we use at the city level. To put legislation into the lovely form, we are going to have to haul a ton of organics out of town and eventually haul a ton of organics back into town at some point in the future, simply to meet the requirements of state legislation and pay for it on both directions. It's a lovely state of California legislation.
Yeah, we're hoping CalRecycle realizes that they need to.
We're desperately hoping that they recognize the challenges that this process is creating across the state.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I got one more thing.
Absolutely.
This is more, I'm kind of throwing this at Ron and Megan. That is that it seems abnormal that this grant, you have to, instead of being given perimeters at the beginning, guidelines at the beginning, you're having to go back and forth to CalRecycle to ask for permission for things.
You are given guidelines at the beginning, but you still have to do it, what they call an expenditure request. And then you do have to do an itemization report. So maybe I'm being extra cautious, but for me, I prefer to double check with CalRecycle rather than have us be out of compliance with what we said we were going to do.
It is CalRecycle.
To double check and say, hey, this is, I think that this qualifies as an education, and for them to come back and say, yes, it's approved, you can proceed. Sure. I'm sure I could potentially cut those corners, but I don't think it's really too much skin off my nose to do that.
No, I'm not asking for that. I've been through this grant process before. I was just making sure I understood. Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay. Without any further council comments, did you have a comment that when I was speaking, interrupt you, or?
No, I mean, Megan did a great job of presenting it, so I have nothing to add.
Okay.
We're all good.
Okay. Hearing no other comment, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
Yeah, so moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, next item is item number 6, discussion regarding the Board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Mr. Heyman.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Groundwater Authority did meet on November 8th, so it has been right about a month ago. And so I will give everyone the highlights of that meeting. So beginning with the agenda item number 9, which was the resolution 7-23 adoption of purchasing policy. And so basically that was the direction was provided to the general counsel to develop and present a purchasing policy based primarily on the purchasing regulations that the water district has adopted and currently uses in their business. So, and so the key provisions of it was to delegate the authority to the general manager to be able to make purchases up to $50,000. And also deal with procedures for formal bidding and for acquisition, disposition of real properties. And so that allows the general manager to operate business without having to come before the board for the smaller monetary details. But it's not that it won't still be privy to the board, it's just she'll be able to do business. And it's worked, the policy that the water district has utilized for all these years has worked well for them. So the board decided to adopt a policy very similar. That's it for item number 9. Item number 10 was the Shallow Wells Impact Identification, Evaluation, and Mitigation Program update. There are 2 impacted well owners that have recently contacted the GA regarding the program. Basically, staff are waiting to receive the well driller's report from both applicants to complete the applications, and after notifying the well owner of a complete report form submittal, the water resource manager will complete a independent evaluation and prepare a draft staff report. The water resource manager's draft evaluation report will be provided to the well owner for review and comment prior to finalizing the staff report and presenting it to the authority board for action. So basically they're waiting on the well driller's report, and then the staff will prepare their report, and then that will be presented to the well owner, and then actions will be taken by the board. And so that concludes the item number 10. Moving on to item number 11 was the agenda item pertaining to the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority legislative agenda for 2024 and the 2024 work plan. So I'll go over some of the highlights of the 2024 plan. Basically, the staff developed a legislative agenda providing the authority's public policies, principles, goals, and objectives. So I'll start with the GA goals. So basically, in regards to government affairs, the GA deals with both local, state, and federal agencies. At the local level, the GA is interacting with the governmental affairs efforts to include state water contractors and other water agencies to obtain imported water supplies for the Groundwater Authority. At the state and federal levels, first, the government funding must be obtained to effectuate the implementation of groundwater sustainability measures, and second, to influence public policies that support the mission goals of the Groundwater Authority, and third, to protect and or reduce ratepayers' funding associated with the groundwater sustainability. So with that, the goals, the 4 primary goals of the GA, goal 1 is to identify and secure government funding for groundwater sustainability measures included within the GSP. That's the goal, and the objective is to reduce and minimize financial impacts to the ratepayers, taxpayers associated with the California Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or what we call SGMA. Goal number 2 is to achieve necessary approvals to effectuate imported water supplies and complete infrastructure required to achieve groundwater sustainability. And with that goal, the objective is to assist the authority staff in obtaining needed permits, approvals, and regulatory requirements associated with water transfers, conveyances, water storage, and needed infrastructure development. Goal number 3 is to preserve and protect the Indian Wells Valley's current and future water resources. And the objective there is to support legislation and regulation that assists the authority in achieving these requirements within the GSP, and to support state, federal legislation regulation that promotes groundwater sustainability measures, drought protection, and water infrastructure development. And goal number 4 is to defeat public policies that endanger groundwater sustainability or risk ratepayers and taxpayers' investment in groundwater resilience. And the objective there is to oppose legislation and regulation risks ratepayers and taxpayers' investment in groundwater sustainability measures, and oppose legislation and regulations that would impede or implement or would impede or the implementation of the GSP itself. So one of the things I'd like to highlight is So far, and then, so I'm going to kind of lead, that was the Groundwater Authority's goals, and then some of the next information I'm going to share with you is on, deals with Capital Corps, who works with the Groundwater Authority directly in these efforts. So one of the things that I'd like to highlight is that since 2019, the authority has invested $334,548 in government affairs, or activities related to government affairs with government funding. So with that $334,540 investment, the return on that investment has been approximately $12,995,452 that has been brought back to the Groundwater Authority. So I think that the efforts and the work done by the staff within the GA and particularly the staff with Capital Corps has been very productive in its efforts. So that's quite a return on investment and work done by Capital Corps. So when Capital Corps also gave their 2024 scope of work and their milestones, so I'll go over a few of those. So milestone number one is for Capital Corps is the imported water supplies, which falls under Task A, complete negotiations with existing identified water sellers. There's 2 potential sellers of Table A water supplies that remain under negotiation with the GA. Under this subtask, Capital Corps seeks to complete negotiations with each seller during 2024. Next, we have milestone number 2, which is the interconnection pipeline project. So their goal is to obtain between $600,000 and $1 million in grant funding to complete planning phases for the project. Another goal is to pass the congressional authorization for construction activities related to the project and pass the state budget request of $25 billion for construction activities related to the project. Milestone number 3 is other projects supporting the GSP. This one I think is important for the city in support of the authority goal number 1, support the authority's needs regarding recycled water measures. Goal number 2 is to assist the city of Ridgecrest in preparing a federal DCIP grant of $5 million to $7 million. Goal 3 is to identify and secure state and federal funding for well mitigations and systems consolidations. And goal 4 is to identify and secure state and federal funding for land repurposing. The objectives are to identify and assist in the preparation of applications under Title 16 of the WIN Act for $5.3 million in planning activities for the water recycling plant, and to obtain $5 million to $7 million in federal DCIP grants for the city's wastewater treatment plant. So these affect the city directly, and we'd sure like to see these goals met and be successful. So that's all I have for the GA's goals and the and Capital Corps. So we'll move on to item number 12, which was the approval and change in scope of work and the budget for contract with Provost and Pritchard Consulting Group for the CEQA and NEPA documents and permit documentation services for the imported water pipeline. So basically, these were cost increases that have come as the project has moved forward. We anticipated, just as we do in the city, we get an approval and we move forward on a project, but by the time we get into it, the costs end up being a little bit more than we anticipated, but it's expected and kind of included within the budgetary scope. But so this one was for a total of the change in cost was $103,000. So that was approved by the board. And moving on to item number 13, very similar. Approval and a change in scope of work and budget for contract with Provost and Pritchard Consulting Group for the design services of the imported water pipeline project. And the change in cost of that was $73,543, which the board did approve. So I believe that's all I have. So I'll open it to any questions from the council that anyone may have.
I'll kick it off. I have one. You know I don't dig into water. I leave you to a lot of water, and then when I find something, then I have to ask. And my ask is about the DI article that showed up today. And I just want to clarify for the record. The article seems to say that new information was discovered but this is a rehash of old information, correct?
I would say so. Now, I think you need to take into consideration who wrote the article, and who's behind the technical consulting group that the article references to.
But this is the results that same technical group was encouraging and promoting prior to the implementation of the
Right.
groundwater sustainability fees back in 19 or back in 20, correct?
Correct.
This isn't breaking news. I'm just making sure that I'm kind of I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying that this is another counter opinion
Right.
to what has been reviewed by the state and agreed upon and approved, and this is not to be negative. I'm not trying to be downgrade. It's kind of written in a tone like this is breaking news. Scientists have discovered that we have millions of gallons of water, when really this is a rehash of data that was presented and subsequently not supported through this GSP process.
I think you're correct in that
Okay.
assessment. And so if you look at the technical consulting group, whose numbers that they use and are behind the article, Mojave, the same individuals that are against the Groundwater Authority, against City of Ridgecrest, against Kern County, against the Navy. I mean, this is the same group that we're in litigation and opposition of, including that group includes the water district. So you could say Mojave Pistachios and the Indian Wells Valley Water District. That's their data that they would like to see utilized. And again, that's their data disagrees with the data that the Groundwater Authority has put together and attained over these years.
And that the state has approved.
And approved by the Groundwater Authority, yes.
So thanks for the rehash of the goals. I appreciate that. I guess what I want to say is that was a good summary. I think since it's not always under our direct purview, right? We just have one elected representative. People don't always get to touch on the Groundwater Authority here in this meeting. So I think going back over those goals is a good thing. So I appreciate that. And I wanted to express I appreciate you, Scott, and I appreciate your direction thus far. And if I hadn't have, me, I'm opinionated sometimes, and so I would have expressed that I fully support you in your direction and everything you've done so far.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Any other council comments? Any public comment? Please, sir.
No,
Not a problem.
You're absolutely fine. That's what this
I
meeting
think
is for.
I love that you're actually trying to get involved in public policy and learning. I wish there were 20,000 of you showing up here to do this all the time.
Slow down. Well, I don't know if you guys would want that.
Okay, I would be happy if there were 2 more people showing up to get involved with public policy.
Yeah, I, the one thing I was just curious about when you were stating off, it increased, the money increased, and you guys approved it. What increased? Like, why did it increase? What was the change?
The cost to, there was 2 different resolutions there. One was for the CEQA NEPA. So when they get into actually doing the studies, there was, they find there's more requests for planning or how can I put it? I could read it off to you. It's in the fine print.
Red tape.
It's red tape. It's well, now we have to do this study, or we have to have this this agency involved in it, and so the costs escalated a bit.
Okay, so basically, they kind of gave you a 5-minute review, but now they went more in depth, and that's why it increased? Is that what you're saying? Like, let's say I am building you a house, right, in a location, and I say, by looking at it for 5 minutes and not really doing my due diligence, it's going to cost you $500,000. But now, hey, I spent more time at the location. It's actually going to cost you $600,000.
I would say that
is?
it's much more in depth than what I understand what your description of it, but it's when Provost and Pritchard did the preliminary studies, they went pretty in depth.
Okay.
And there's a lot that goes into this project. whether it's the CEQA NEPA environmental, which is what we're dealing with in those two instances. So you have your environmental, you have your land acquisitions, you have right-of-ways, you have a tremendous amount of areas that you have to jump through the hoops to get to the end product of construction start.
Okay.
And so even though they did their due diligence and spent, I would say it's more than hundreds of hours. I can't guarantee the numbers, but it was very costly and very in-depth study. So to be off, I know it still sounds like a lot of money, but $100,000, we're talking a $6 million planning and development.
No, that's fine. It's just, I was just curious why it changed, because what I interpreted is they did their due diligence, right? And then they redid their due diligence and it increased. And I was
Ricky,
just like,
I was trying to think of an example, and I don't mean to cut you off, Doc, to match. And I think Travis is about to say the same thing. Is imagine that you bid a project out and the PVC pipe you're told that you can use is 2-inch. And then the state passes a law that says, no, you have to use a 2-inch galvanized steel pipe. Well, now, what your costs to do that project may have substantially changed by what other exterior circumstances are being applied to the project. And Groundwater Authority only passed in 2014 and continues to evolve on a constant basis from a legislative and from a state-directed perspective that may cause. I'm trying to simple it into kind of.
No. I get it. I
what
get it
you were
now.
thinking about.
I comprehend it. It's
Okay,
just I
thanks.
thought everything was still the same, but they decided to up it to kind of.
Yeah, no, it's just additional costs that there's no way to line item it out to the exact dollar. It would be almost impossible in a project like this.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Travis.
He can't get a microphone
Just
to
touch
work.
it once and wait.
Yell.
No, Mark.
Hey, there we go. I just kind of wanted to give you yes, from an engineer's perspective. So most of your public agency consultant contracts are what we call a time and material contract. So based on the scope of work that they're given, they estimate the amount of time and the amount of materials that is going to go into that line item. So one of the big topics for any kind of an environmental or a study is public comment. And it's the easiest way I think we can describe it to you. So if I put in my base based on what we're expecting for public comment, I have 20 hours in my bid, but we get 200 public comments, and by law, I have to respond to them all within 30 days. It's gonna take a lot more than those 20 hours, so they request a budget increase to respond in light of what's coming.
All right.
So.
All right. That's
That's a good.
That's a better. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And it is a good question you brought up. So
Great
I
question.
hope we answered you.
I'm just making sure, I'm understanding that you guys ultimately decide, but just make sure we're not, when something costs, we're not spending more money when it's the same outcome. No.
That's the goal.
That's a good question.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to council. Is there any other council comments? Hearing none, we'll go on and move on to item number 7. Thank you, Doc. Item number 7 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing the city manager to execute agreements with the California Department of Transportation for the Inyo Current Transfer Hub Xeriscaping project. Mr. Reed.
This one gets your good side.
Yeah, I didn't want the picture on YouTube to be my bald head again, like it was the first time I sat over there. Good evening, council. So as you guys know, we applied for, and I say we, Transit applied for round 2 of the Clean California Grant, to which we were awarded the sum of $187,000. What we have before you tonight is basically all the contracts and the procedural stuff, and we're requesting that we're getting in front of it, that we can have our city manager execute all the standard agreements before. It's a requirement for this grant since it's a 100% funded and some of it comes up front. So it's basically a pre-request to be able to fill out the paperwork in time so we can get it in and have the longest opportunity to construct the project. As you guys know, with Clean California 1, a lot of people have run into issues with being able to get things constructed due to the volatility in the market. So I think this is an effort to try to give agencies as much time as possible. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Travis, please take at least a moment to describe what the project is.
So I owe the public and I owe the council a apology for the map. I totally forgot that the map was 11 by 17. So when we print it, you've got a lovely picture of a bush
this is
and
our
some
bush.
lines.
$187,000 bush.
Yes, yes. But it's got purple flowers, so it's gorgeous.
In black and white, it still looks like a $187,000 bush.
So as you guys know, we applied for xeriscaping and beautification, which is kind of what one of the main goals, to sum up the goals, they were to reduce the amount of waste and debris in public right-of-ways, pathways, parks, transit centers, ding ding, and other public spaces, enhance reliability, restore and install measures to beautify and improve public spaces. So that's the kind of the two goals of the grant that we targeted in our application. And what we're doing is we're going to beautify the Inyo Kern Transit Hub. Currently, the Inyo Kern Transit Hub has a little shelter, a bathroom, a drive around, parking lot, and it's dirt. So we put together a quick application, and the Caltrans told us we haven't got any rural transit centers. Do you guys have any? And we all kind of went, yeah, we do have one of those. So put together a quick map to which one of our planning commissioners graciously helped us and put together the planting plan for us. And we got it submitted for the grant application. It was accepted. So in general, we're going to put some curb and gutter in, landscaping. We're going to landscape 5 foot around the perimeter of the already improved surfaces and all the interior areas.
And so we'll actually make it more handicap accessible. I'm assuming that it's just curb and gutter improvements and
so the curb and gutter improvements are more to differentiate where our landscape's going to start and where our asphalt pavement begins. It'll kind of pin it down like planter areas. As far as handicap accessibility is concerned, when it was built back in, I think it was built in 2018, it was the new 2018 standard.
Okay.
So it met the standard then, and we're not drastically changing it. So
I was curious if it helped us one more stage on the ADA process that
I
we've
would have absolutely probably included some ADA improvements in it if there would be sidewalks around it that got you to it. But there's no sidewalks in the immediate vicinity, so as long as we're compliant on site, we meet those regulations. Okay. So,
Any other council comments?
I have a couple of questions. So, Mr. Reed, how did you determine the amount, 187,000?
So we used one of our latest bid documents based off of, for curb and gutter and concrete prices. We used the landscape architect's manual that BNI publishes for decomposed granite spreading, for rock spreading.
So basically, it's as an engineer, you guesstimated that amount, right? Okay.
Correct. We used engineer estimating tools to try to come up with an amount that we thought would cover us. And we didn't put an absurd amount of plants in because we didn't want to have a water bill that goes through the roof. Since we're all in a water crisis, I think there's like 28 or 30 plants or something like that total that are all drip, drought tolerant style plants. And the rest is rock, things that will keep the vacant land that we try to keep weeded from causing blowing dust to the local residents around it.
Okay. So this grant can be used only for Cal State highways?
No.
No.
So this is off of 3rd Street in Inyo Kern.
Okay.
And how we fit the bill was they were looking for rural transit hubs was one of the actual things that it was looking for. With some of the projects and how we've seen with bidding, we were a little reluctant, but we felt like something that was under the $250,000 range would probably be more in the range of things that our local landscape companies could handle. So we felt that getting a project of this magnitude bid should not be a problem.
Oh,
So that was kind of where we chose our ballpark and how we chose to design our landscape, and my way of thinking when I asked Bernie to help me out here.
And just to add, if I remember correctly, one of the things that is Clean California, we already had received the first grant. They were kind of saying, we're looking for this.
Correct.
They were
specifically.
they were saying, we need an
applicant like
We need an
this."
applicant like this, and if you
Yes.
want to apply and do something, come on down.
Yeah, because obviously if you had received the first one, I believe there was a significant deduction in the points you could get. But even with that deduction, since we were the only applicant of this style, it doesn't really hurt you, right?
Okay. So once you get the grant, and then you call for bids again?
So once we get the grant, I will do a full design in-house that'll actually quantify everything we're putting out there to a T. So we can obviously try to stay within the grant budget and we don't have any overages. And we'll go from there. And then if I have to cut a few things, as long as I'm not cutting the planting and the beautification. So in essence, some of my cuts might be, hey, we were going to put DG down and a colorful rock pattern that looked like a stream. Maybe we cut the colorful rock pattern and just DG the whole thing with the plants, or do things like that to help keep it within budget. So that's the plan moving forward. And then obviously put together a full bid package in-house. I'm going to hopefully work on that simultaneously with Quinn so he can get his feet wet doing a full bid package and go from there.
All right, so thank you. That's all I have. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Just for my knowledge, what is restricted grant agreement?
I'm sorry, say what?
Restricted grant agreement.
So the restricted grant agreement is the first part of the grant, which is basically the restricted grant agreement is saying, here's the general guidelines of this grant. We want to know who is going to be your authorizer to be able to sign on the city's behalf for the full grant agreement. So it's part of the nuts and bolts to the standard grant applications standard grant language that we have to sign of, hey, if you don't get this money spent or you deviate from the project scope, you guys cover the overages, or that standard agreement. Or if you don't deliver the project and you spent money on preliminary engineering, you have to give the full cost back. So.
Sure. Understood. Thank you.
Does it come under public comment?
Go ahead.
No, it's kind of a work question. So I have a question, Martin. Can I ask it here? Do I need to go down there? I have a question for Travis.
Comment, correct?
I'm
Oh,
good
okay.
right here?
I was just clarifying.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
It's
up to
give
the
me
mayor.
one moment. Let me call
Yes,
for
yes.
public comment, and then I will just simply so that I'm clear that is there any other council comments, Mr. Heyman, and then I'll be happy to let you speak.
Not a problem.
So under the current landscape plan that's in there, so is there currently the border?
You got the whole thing? I just got the bush.
So
That's
the
because I
border
printed it
that's
and you
around,
printed
is
it.
that currently out there? Is there a border?
Sir.
So there's no border currently. The existing border is where the asphalt stops. So
Right.
we're gonna put a landscape border and a barrier in, and also the interior section right there.
Right.
Is where I'm gonna put a curb around. There's a curb around the one where your pin is right now.
Yep.
But we're putting a curb around the one further that would be to the east towards the road.
I like what we're seeing here, because in years past, it's been a few, probably like at least 3, maybe 4 citizens that utilize the transit hub in Inyokern. And the orientation that it currently exists in is a little confusing to people, and, the way the bus comes in, or the transit, and how people drive around this area. And so this contains it more, delegates, safer space for people to enter,
It will,
exit.
yes.
I like it.
It will definitely
And
do
I think
that,
that-
and I think with us doing some more work to keep the blowing sand and debris and stuff like that off of the existing asphalt, as well as, we need to do some asphalt maintenance out there, it's been due for a while. We'll be able to put arrows, indicators, probably add some signs that will give it a little bit more of a feel for, hey, parking straight, buses left, pickup drop off here, right?
Yeah.
So it'll give it a little bit more of an actual station feel rather
Exactly,
than
and from
a little hut in the middle of a desert area.
From a public safety standpoint, I think it enhances and alleviates some problems along with, the whole focus of making it a enhanced and beautified area.
100% agree with you.
But good job.
Transit deserves all the credit. All I did was review and give my stamp of approval.
Any other council comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and begin with public comment. I believe that our lovely city clerk has a question.
So because I receive a lot of phone calls, random phone calls, and one of the ones I get a lot of is, hey, the trash is blowing out at the Inyakern Transit Hub. And of course I call you and you get your guys out there to take care of it. But that's not on a regular basis that somebody goes out there and does that. And now you're putting in landscaping. Who's paying to maintain that? When are you going to go out and do that? I mean, because if we get the calls for the trash, how are we going to maintain the landscaping? Do you have plans going forward for that?
So the majority of the landscaping is minimal maintenance for what I would call. That's why we showed mostly rock and DG with a couple of plants.
You said 30 plants.
Yeah, 30 plants. And I would think that a regular hour pruning of those 30 plants once a year would probably be more than sufficient.
Okay.
And then it is kind of one of the things that's been in the back of my head on figuring out some way to have somebody that checks on that. We've been trying to use the cleaning staff that we have that cleans the transit hub once a month to verify trash cans for us, but I think I'm gonna have to make some operational changes
Why
for
can't your
that, and
drivers
we'll
do
look
it?
at it.
Just have some kind of a checklist, say I was there and I looked and we're good or something on a
Bathroom's
regular
good, this was
route.
good, yes.
Yeah, I mean, use them while they're there.
A lot of that comes too is, you know how it is with trash. If trash is full and you have a rider on board, you don't necessarily want to put the trash in the bus
Of
that
course.
the rider's on. So, but we'll come up with some way operationally to help maintain the area.
Thank you.
Good question, Rika.
Any other public comment?
I should have said no comment.
Yes, sir?
These grants that they keep asking for, does it come from you guys or the state?
They come from different places and different funding streams. Actually, there's a lot of different grants that we accept or entertain or apply for. And sometimes it's just us going through the process of applying for a grant. Sometimes it's us accepting the grant, as you saw earlier with the chief. And they come from different funding streams, but usually from the state. Sometimes from the county, there's a block grant.
Most of your grant funding is state and federal, and then we have a governing body in our jurisdiction, which is like our KERNCOG, our Kern Community of Governments, our Council of Governments, I'm sorry. And a lot of times they're the grant administrator, but almost every grant I've ever seen, unless you're applying for a private grant, like CalRecycle, I believe is a private grant from a company, from an entity, but most of them are state or federal, and then you have a body that disperses the funds. So like for us, our disbursement of funds for Clean California, RSTP, HSIP, ATP, all these different grants for roads and things like that we apply for is Caltrans, Division of Local Assistance.
All right, and the landscaping that you were just talking about, once it's finished, is that city's property or is it just pretty much everyone's
So it's
property?
designated public space, but the city did purchase property to build that transit hub. So we actually received a grant back in 2015 that we built the transit hub with. So that included us purchasing the land, actually doing a certificate of compliance, certificate of acceptance, all this stuff to divvy the parcel out, and then building the transit station.
All right, so anything you guys built is basically yours, and then you guys take care of it, fix it up and all that, so it's your guys' property, right?
It's quote-unquote city property, but you gotta remember, we're an entity that's governed by the public, right? You've got elected members, so it's a public property.
Public
I
property.
know, but I mean, like, what I'm saying.
Under
is
the
basically-
governance of the city of Ridgecrest.
Correct.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, like,
That's
I'm
a
not
great way
saying
to
that
put
we're
it.
not allowed to use it. I'm
Right.
saying, like, if anything happens to it, it's
Under
your
the
guys'
governance.
job to fix it and take
Yeah,
care of it.
we operate and maintain it.
And and the source of these funds is the Clean California program, which was stood up in 2021. Megan disappeared on me, and it was.
Right there.
Oh, there she is. I'm sorry.
She's over there.
You put the coat on, so I couldn't see the color change. My apologies. I didn't have the glass on. And so the Clean California grant program was stood up as a result of the funds dispersed by the federal government through America's Rescue Plan. a big chunk of funds came to the state. The state then divvied out a portion of those funds to each of these different programs, and this was Caltrans Clean California program that was stood up as a result of that.
And I think one other thing worth noting is all these grants are competitive. So you compete against other agencies. So why we don't go after every grant out there is because it takes valuable staff time to prepare these applications. So unless you think you have a really good shot at getting the money, it's almost counterproductive to go after some of them.
Oh, so someone can do it from another city?
Correct.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you
We're
guys are up
competing-
against a lot of other people, not
Against
just
the
people in
entire
city.
state of California.
Correct.
Oh,
Any
okay.
state grant, you're up against the whole state of California. Any government agency, any tribal agency, anything like that.
Ouch. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Bring it back to council. Any other final council comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Our 8th item for this evening
A tongue
is...
twister.
Huh?
A tongue twister.
Is a resolution to accept the base bid is submitted by All American Fence Erectors, allocate budgeted capital funds and up to $12,961 for a contingency for a maximum total of up to $107,111 award a construction contract to All American Fence Erectors to construct the CDBG Leroy Jackson fencing project, project number 17-21-1 for $94,150 and authorize the city manager, Ron Strand, to execute the contract agreement. I was very close.
Well, I will say it's actually
Mr. Reed.
17.21.1, not dash.
17.21, I said 17.21.1.
You said dash.
You should dash.
Oh, it's a dash?
So anyways, this is a testament to Nerissa and her team. They've come up with some great projects. As you guys know, they're pretty much overwhelmed with projects right now. We had the CDBG funds that were budgeted through the budget. We developed a bid package in-house. We actually got a call of confirmation after my email in our staff
Did you?
meeting this morning.
Yay.
James reviewed the documents, everything was in line, in order, and we were good to go. So what we're here today is to ask you if we can award one of the first projects we've had that has come in with a bid under the budgeted amount, with our quote-unquote 13 and change % contingency for the full budget amount for all the unknowns. And with that, it's going around the two lower softball fields at Leroy Jackson Park. And it'll be a nice way for when we go to rest it, for things like that. We're getting ready to do some work out there to clean the infields up. Nerissa's team's already started on one of the fields. We got a new device to help us get things flat, and hopefully we can get to the other two here shortly. And we're gonna erect a fence around it, give ourselves good maintenance access with a couple of good 20-foot gates, and add some man gates, and make the facilities a little more secure. So, and with that, I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, even though I know, I'm asking mostly for the public, fenced around what? Are you talking about in between the two fields, in between like the varsity fields, or around? Please do.
Yeah, this is just perimeter fencing.
This is not, it won't cut the fields.
Oh, come on, it's your project. I'm just helping here.
Thanks for coming up, Narissa. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I always do.
Hello, yes, it's just for the exterior perimeter of it. We're not going to be putting one dividing the two fields because when we have tournaments over there, that makes it to where they can't use it if we separate them. So we use temporary fencing for that type of thing.
Okay.
So I want to take a quick moment. Anything else, Mr. Belize? I apologize. I don't want to tend to cut you off.
You're good.
Just for the purposes of the public as well, CDBG is Community Development Block Grant Funds, and this is a perfect example of one of those block grant funds that does require us to go through the county as part of the process because they are the parent governing body that then disperses to the individual municipalities under it. So we are allowed to apply annually for these block grants through Kern County, and that Kern County receives those funds from the federal government. And so we have to, each one is a little bit different as we've discussed grants tonight. This one is a annual one that we usually get to. And the next one, the next item on our agenda is the next CDBG proposed project. And I just wanted to make sure I clarified that for the public. Any other council comments? Okay, any public comment?
They have to apply to you guys for grants, and then you guys vote on whether or not.
So the question was, do they have to apply through us for the grant? Is that correct?
Every time you guys vote, is that like, passing his grant, he's able to apply?
It's giving the staff permission to move forward with the proposed grant project.
Yeah, staff chooses ones that they feel fit their needs and what the council direction that we've gotten is, and then we bring it to them for them to award them or authorize us to submit.
So basically, you have to ask permission to apply or to send your grant through to.
Correct. And this is the second phase. You'll see the first phase in the next item.
I think we better rein it in soon before Martin pops.
Okay. No other public comment? Bring it back to council. If there's no other council comments, do I have a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Please vote. Motion carries, unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Apologize for 1 second. I have to pull a piece of paper out of here. So next item is item number 9. This is our public hearing. This is a continued public hearing from, I believe, November. Oh, from the second meeting in November. Okay. From the 15th? Okay. Continued public hearing resolution approving the fiscal year 24-25 annual application regarding the Kern County Community Development Block Grant Program. I'm going to go ahead and open first the public hearing, and then I will hear from our staff member, Ms. Wagner. Yep.
Good evening, council. So we're here today for a public hearing. The CDBG block grant was established, or this public hearing, was established to discuss and prioritize proposed community development block grant projects for the fiscal year 24-25. The amount that we are anticipating that we're going to get is $148,632. So at this time, I will open it for public comments and see what projects people have.
Okay. Huh?
I said seeing none.
Oh, no, we'll go ahead and call for any public comment on recommendations or suggestions for the community development block grant. Okay. Why do I feel like I'm missing a step?
Yeah, you're fine. Keep the public hearing open, and then I will move forward with the staff report.
Okay. Go ahead. It's a call for projects
Yeah,
prior to,
if there's
and now
anybody-
there's
if
no
there's-
other public comment? Okay, the staff went up. Thank you. I'm missing a step in the process, and I apologize. I didn't want to overstep. Please proceed.
So I'm just going to start with my slides and kind of explain what the CDBG block grant is and what qualifies for it, since the public might have questions about that. For the CDBG grant qualifications, it must be located in a disadvantaged area. So the projects areas that qualify would be over by the Leroy Jackson Park Sports Complex, and also here at Freedom Park or the Penny Pool area. Eligible projects are recreational improvements, public facility rehabilitation, so ADA improvements, public facility improvements, water sewer improvements, street drainage improvements, and architectural barriers. So these are the maps of the qualifying areas. As you can see, the Leroy Jackson Sports Complex and Freedom Park Penny Pool area. We already went over that. So staff's recommendation is improvements to Freedom Park. Recommended improvements is an inclusive playground and a small shaded seating area that would be attached to it. This seating area would actually divide the current splash pad from the playground so that there is a space where when kids get done playing in the water, before they go over to the play equipment, they're going to have time to kind of drip dry on their way over there. Also allows for parents to sit in between to watch children that are on the splash pad or on the playground. The project cost, we obtain estimate from a contractor for the proposed project. This project will be completed using the purchasing policy, and staff's recommended project funding breakdown is CDBG, the $148,000, park impact fees of $100,000 to cover the design cost, Measure P funding or other funding for the $328,000. Combined project funding is $570,190. For the park impact fees, we have discussed budgeting that in the next fiscal year so that we can start having the design done. So that way, when this project goes out to bid, we'll be ready to just go with it, and it stops for further delay. The project benefits is it addresses the public's concerns of not having an inclusive playground, provides another element to the Freedom Park area. Combining the grants would also allow the city to do a larger, more beneficial project. So this is the splash pad now. So you see the splash pad at the other end where that big tree is where the playground would be going out. It would be a total of, let me see, an additional 3,600 square feet added on to what's currently there. And it would run along those oleanders that you see. And I kind of tried to clip stuff because initially we had the extension of the splash pad in there too. I haven't gotten an updated drawing yet from the people who I've been working with, so I kind of just try to take their pieces and take one piece out. So in the new seating area, it would be not as large as what we have at the splash pad. It would be about 4 tables in that area, and then we would have 4 benches around. So as you can see on the side, that's the playground with the existing splash pad and a seating area in the middle. And this is just an example of some of the designs that we've been coming up with when working with RecWest. So you guys kind of get an idea of what the inclusive features would be. I'm still working or going to be working with the Quality of Life Committee to kind of narrow down what features we want to have in there. And this project was vetted through the Quality of Life Committee on November 7th and suggested to move forward to council. So with that, I'm open for any questions.
You got a question? Yeah.
I do. So why is the balance coming from Measure P?
I can answer that. Because the project is more than what the CBDG amount is, as part of P, we knew we were going to have other capital projects that we were going to be conducting over the 9-year period of Measure P. Remember, we had anticipated we'd have an additional $9 to $12 million for other capital projects within the city. So this matches the intent of what Measure P was for the addition of a park. So we're looking at P and impact funds because we know how long it takes CBDG to ramp up and get approved and go through the county and state and federal process. So by using impact fees for the design, we'll get it fully designed. And then once it gets approved through the county and the state and the funding's available, then we'll be able to move forward. And there should be sufficient funds in residual Measure P to be able to make up that balance amount.
Yeah, I understand this is trend, but Measure P just started. And the purpose of Measure P is mainly pool and rehiring the police and what are the other things? Fire. So we have not done any of those things, and at the beginning itself, we are trying to dig into Measure P, which I am not comfortable to do that because playgrounds, parks and recreation, it's not part of the items which were included in the Measure P.
There were additional items listed in our budget that we'd presented during Measure P, during the budget process, and during when we began the allocation of the projects. Remember, this project's not going to break ground for 2 years.
But still, I mean, we haven't done anything with the pool. We have budgeted 14 million. We don't know how much it is going to be.
Correct.
So why are we touching Measure P at this point?
We actually will not be touching Measure P until the project is ripe. Now, if council decides at the time it comes to approve the final paperwork for CBDG, if this is not a project that the council feels or the community feels is not worthy of Measure P expenditure, then you can obviously make that decision. The idea of putting what the potential budget would be is to help council understand when we're moving forward with this project, how it can be recommended that will be paid for. I feel that this is one of the projects that we had discussed in Measure P as one of the side projects that was from the residual that we're going to have from Measure P, because if we don't spend it, then we're going to have at the end of 9 years, $9 to $12 million sitting in the Measure P account. So it was designed to do additional capital projects through the city. This is a project that is important, or at least has come up through the quality of life as one of the priority projects that they want to do, is have an all-inclusive playground. It matches with the timing of the rebuild of the pool. We're hoping the pool will have broken ground by next summer. We're not looking at construction on this and probably till at least 2026. So the pool will more than likely almost be completed by the time this project moves forward, and we should have a very clear picture of where we're at with Measure P at that point in time.
Okay. I understand that, but why can't we take these funds from general fund?
You can. You're more than welcome to.
I would prefer going that
Yeah,
route. without
well, Measure
touching-
P is still general fund. Measure P is still general fund, but if council chooses when this project is ready to go, we can use general fund reserves, we can budget it that year for it. This was just something that fit Measure P as it was presented to council and approved by the community. That was my belief in moving forward with this. This was a Measure P project, or it could be in part. If council feels that this expenditure is not appropriate, then fine, we can pass it up. But we are going to have other capital projects, specifically parks, that are going to come up, and then we're going to have that same question. If Measure P doesn't apply for this, then how does it apply for other capital projects in the future? So, but that decision can be made. We just have to be able to apply for this grant and come up with a project.
Sure. I mean, I
Right.
understand the grant part.
The funding mechanism, the county doesn't care about the funding mechanism. This was just more of providing council with what staff's thoughts were on how to make this a complete project. Now,
Sure.
if council wishes to use general fund instead of Measure P, that is your prerogative. This was just, in my experience, if we didn't come up with this and we said we had a $500,000 project, the question would be, where are you coming up with the balance of money? So we were coming up with a way of how we can move this project forward as expeditiously as we can. One of the other thoughts with this project is hiring an outside consultant to assist us with the paperwork for the CBDG, because it's so time-consuming for staff. So we're finding a way to move these projects a little bit quicker. That's all.
Yeah.
The fence took 2 years.
Other source, I mean, how about ARPA? How much is left in ARPA?
I believe I think ARPA is going to be fully spoken for here shortly. We're going to get the bids back for Clean California next Wednesday. What's that?
Yeah, the ARPA is gonna,
Right.
would expire.
This money, this funding you're talking about, ARPA will not qualify for this because we would had to have it spent by the time we break ground. Mind you, this fence project that we just accepted the bid on, we started working on 3 years ago.
Gotcha, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
CDBG is so slow.
yeah. I'm not comfortable with touching Measure P, so in the presentation, you should have said general funds instead of Measure P.
We can Mayor, if I may, the funds that are received by the revenue from Measure P that is received by the city is general fund revenue.
Correct.
It is revenue that goes into the general fund. It was a general fund tax that was being proposed. So that money is available for any legal general fund purpose. So the city council can decide how to spend it as long as it is a allowable general fund expenditure. Measure P money can be applied to that expenditure. So it's not a special.
No, I beg to differ on that, because when we went to the voters, we specified certain items. So this is not one of the items that was specified when we went to the voters.
But when we went to the voters, there was a clear understanding that it could be applied to these specific.
Correct, yeah.
And any other general fund purpose.
And can I jump in the center just to help with something? I understand kind of what your point is, that there's a spirit to what Measure P was passed with, right? And that's what the citizens and the voters entrusted us with. I believe that, again, this is going to take several years to get through that process. By the beginning of '24, we'll have our committee in place. By the time we get to '25, we'll probably have our first report in place. We'll have seen how far we're along in the spirit of what Measure P was intended to accomplish. We've already accomplished the police department, the staff positions, the staff salaries, the fire contract. We've already accomplished many of those objectives.
We did not accomplish rehiring 4 police officers yet.
What was that question again?
The police
Did we
officers?
rehire 4 police officers?
Yes, we're in the process of hiring the police officers. Yes, that's been added to the budget. There was a budget sheet that was part of the marketing of Measure P that I can provide to you that had other projects like baseball fields, baseball lights.
No, I know that. I know.
There were a lot of other things that were, I do believe we were very transparent with the public that some of the other quality of life things we were looking at. Now, we had our priorities of the pool, but we also made it very clear that there was going to be a residual amount that was going to be left over, that was going to be applied to other stuff.
I'm going to try one more time, because I think what you're wanting to make sure of is the spirit of what the spirit of what the taxpayers entrusted us with is being followed. We are going to have 24 months now to continue that process, to show the pool, to show the committee, to show those things before this is even going to come back up to the final approval for where those offset funds are going to come from. And if at that time we don't feel as a council that we have met that standard of expectation for our taxpayer, then we can simply say, no, we're not going to allocate this from what the Measure P committee might be reviewing, but more from a general fund perspective. I understand it's the same bucket of money.
And you're not approving the allocation.
Yeah,
by
we're
your action
approving
today, you're not approving
the application
Measure
for
P
the
money.
CDBG.
You're just approving the application for the grant.
I understand what you're saying, but we have said here that it is coming from Measure P.
It says
So
here
that's where I have a problem.
That the funds, the staff proposes that to fund the project, Measure P funds would be used. But that's a proposal from staff, and you're not voting on that right now.
Yeah, and the resolution doesn't,
Yeah.
the resolution is not dictating that in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form.
Resolution.
Actually, the resolution points out that it's another funding source. Park impact fees are other funding source.
Yeah, it
Does
doesn't.
not call out Measure
And
P.
it says the source of funds for operating associated City of Ridgecrest General Fund
And another funding source.
and other funding source. So I mean, at the point that we get to approving the project for its completion, if there's a sense that we're not meeting that taxpayer expectation,
Correct.
I would certainly say that there's room for that conversation to certainly be revisited or to be rediscussed or anything of that nature to address those concerns. Absolutely no question about that. But I think that I think the spirit of what Measure P is still being accomplished, and the key element is Measure P's only been in place for 7 months now. I mean, it's not like it's been around for 3 years and we haven't met that expectation. And I think in the 7 months, we've probably done a pretty good job. And we still have 2 years to see if we're still meeting that expectation before we physically make the approval to take it from that designated bucket of funds, which still is part of the general fund, of course, but under the privy of the Citizens Review Committee and things of that nature.
That is correct. It's just another revenue in a general fund. It can be used again for any general fund.
No, that's
purpose.
where I beg to differ, though.
I'm sorry?
That's where I beg to differ. We cannot say we can use it for any other purpose.
But
Because we have specified certain items.
Legally, you absolutely can. That is the.
I think I have the spirit and the legality
Right.
in conflict, and I'm respecting both sides because you're providing the legal opinion, which is accurate, that it is it can be used for that purpose, and he's talking about the spirit of what the taxpayer, the oversight committee, and what the those.
And the basis upon which the tax was presented and adopted was that it was a general fund tax. It wasn't a special tax. It wasn't designated for a specific purpose.
And I think he's trying to avoid us looking like it's a special pre-designated, because then it would be, then we would have needed more votes. That's a fair question. I'm just, any other questions?
No.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Do I take public comment again?
If there is any, because we
Okay.
left it open, yeah.
Is there any public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. I didn't make a comment earlier because I was, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm in
It
support of
would be
this.
appropriate to close the public hearing at this point.
Oh, okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for final council comments. Mr. Heyman.
Well, I just want to say that I agree with City Manager Strand's description of Measure P and the funding, but looking back, here's the local ballot measure, frequent or FAQs, frequently asked questions. So states right here that what local priorities have been identified. It goes on, with the priorities that Solomon had brought up, but it also includes recreation programs for all ages. And then under the city's, what are the city's maintenance needs? It goes on to state that if enacted, Measure P can provide funding for infrastructure and facility needs such as parks, sports fields, recreation centers, and youth programs, all of which have been identified as priorities by the Ridgecrest community in recent surveys. So, and I understand fully, we've got close tabs on Measure L and Measure V, but Measure P did include in talks and descriptive, analysis of it, the very thing that we're talking about right now. And like City Manager Strand said, we're looking at like a smaller residual amount, and when you couple that with the 250,000 roughly that we get to add to that, we end up with a major enhancement of the city, that caters to the concerns that were addressed by the citizens in the city by that survey that was done.
And by the quality of life thing.
And the quality of life. So I think it falls well within the parameters. I'm in 100% support of this. And while I do understand the need to watch it closely, I think with Measure P that we fall well within the parameters of what its intent is with this project. But I just wanted to add that.
Go ahead.
May I?
Absolutely.
Been listening carefully, and like Councilman Solomon, I've begun to feel Measure P money funding is a third rail. If you want to go fussing with it, you better be well insulated. But after listening to Councilman Heyman and having a lot of faith in our city manager in knowing what color money he's got to manipulate, to make things efficiently work. I'm not too worried. I do enjoy this kerfuffle in a teacup that came up just now, and I know that our city manager can expect another one should we start looking covetously at that third rail Measure P money again. There.
So the only comment I was going to make was this has, I like the public to understand how things sometimes happen and Councilman Hayman was there. He knows exactly, I hope, the story that I'm going to tell, which is that we had a mother and her daughter come in. They came in and at a quality of life meeting, they came and they spoke directly to the council at that committee meeting. And she said, my daughter she was permanently disabled. I apologize, I don't remember what the disability was. And she said, she loves being outdoors, she loves having these things, but there's nowhere where she can go. And it really opened my eyes and my heart, and this was back in I believe it was about April or May of 22, if my memory serves me correctly. And then I proceeded to travel to my mom's 75th birthday in Oregon and went to an inclusive playground. And I came back and said, I get it, I understand, and how can we make this happen in Ridgecrest? And so to say this has been a pet project of the mayor, and it would be completely accurate. To say this has been a pet project of the Quality of Life Committee would be completely accurate. I believe that a playground at Freedom Park as part of the entire Freedom Park complex, when we have Penny Pool completed, how it's going to connect to the senior center, how it will connect to Freedom Park, how it connects to the Kerr-McGee Center. I think it's a very appropriate addition when we made the decision to remove essentially Helmers Park. Because Helmers Park is essentially going to be removed by the pool project. And so with one of the original ideas was to be able to put some playground area there next to the pool, so there was some recreational space for, hey, my 14-year-old swimming in the meet, and I got a 6-year-old, and what am I doing with them? Go to the playground, play for 5 minutes, and give all of our parents and loved ones, that brief reprieve from her, or him or her. And I think this was the best alternative to still achieving that goal while not allowing it to go by the wayside. The original plan was a greater expansion of the splash pad along with the playground. We've trimmed that back to just the playground and some seating. I hope that we do make sure that we make sure that the shade cover includes the benches when it does.
Covers the
And, yeah,
entire
I didn't know on the edge if it went out that way. And I think, again, this is about, I may be controversial here, but, we get into this muck of, we're catering to this or we're catering to that or we're trying to support this. But the truth of the matter is that anything we can do to make a greater community, a greater inclusive community, doesn't mean that we're catering to it. It just means that we recognize that there's a need, that there are children with handicap needs that don't have a place to play in our community, and we want them to have an opportunity to play in our community. And, I understand Councilman Rajaratnam's point. I still do also happen to agree that I think it does fit within the Measure P goals and objectives that we set out for. But we still have 2 years to see if we're accomplishing those. And I would rather wait and see. Yeah.
I am in fully support of the project. That's not the point I'm arguing, though. So from where the money coming, that's what, yeah.
And that's what I say is, I think we got 2 years to see if the spirit of Measure P is continuing to be fulfilled, and that we're meeting, and that the committee feels that way, and we can look at that. And but I just wanted to make sure the public knew that this has been something that's been working around its way for about 18 months, and that's. I'd love to tell you that government moves faster. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I thank you for taking this and building it out, and this becomes the next CDBG goal for our community, and it has my full support. Is there any other council comments?
One correction, sorry. In the resolution, it should be CDBG instead of CB. Last line, authorize the city manager to execute.
You got the D and the B
sign.
backwards.
Yep, we'll fix that.
Yep. He catches everything.
He does.
Okay. Is there any other council comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution to apply for the application as presented with the amended change identified by
Motion to
Councilman
approve.
Number 1 is CBDG, Rika, instead of CDBG.
Yeah, at the very bottom, the D and the B are backwards.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. I'm going to give that one to Skip.
Skip gets that one.
He rarely speaks up. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Narissa.
Thank you, Narissa. Okay, we have finished our discussion and approval items. We are on to our committee reports. I just want to state ahead of time, I know people may see there's a lot of cancellations. It's holiday season. When there's a lot of other work going on, we're not going to just meet for the sake of meeting. It doesn't serve that purpose. But there's a lot that's obviously in motion, and all citizens are, again, encouraged to sign up for notifications from the city, participate in the process, and please attend committee meetings. Because as I just stated for the action item we just took, it's your inputs that allow us to get to greater community, to address community needs. And I believe the daughter's name was Gina. I cannot remember the mother's name. But if she's out there listening, it's been 18 months, but we are continuing the motion forward. Your daughter might be 12 by the time we get there. And I hope she has a wonderful, healthy life at 12. But for all the kids behind her, she'll have your appreciation for that. So thank you. Next, committee reports, economic development.
Yes, we did meet December the 4th. We have several discussion items which range 2 to 6, recruitment development updates, Kern County updates, downtown Balsam street revitalization, community events, and economic outlet conference. Some of these cross over with other committees, so we can gloss over them, such as community events. But number 2, recruitment and development updates. Really, here to foot-stomp for the public is that there is a calendar that's updated pretty consistently by the city staff to show when a new business is going in. If you're listening to this and you are a business that has not been noticed, please let the city staff know, or let me know, let anybody know that you have, that has city email access. There is always a lot of quote unquote economic development going on in the background. There's always a lot of churn, a lot of businesses looking at properties. That has not stopped. Ridgecrest does not seem to be plateauing in that area. There is still some slight growth, such as Jersey Mike's coming in, Habit Burger, well on its way. Number 3, Kern County updates. Really, that's just any kind of economic development efforts between the two, between us and them, and how they benefit us both. There wasn't a whole lot to report on there, or even number 4, the downtown Balsam Street community events. We've seen those. They've been on social media and in the newspaper. I don't need to expand on that too much. There wasn't much to report other than to say that there's more in the future. The direction of the city council to the city staff is to not pause in that effort. We want to see that go into the quality of life of this community. And the Economic Outlook Conference. So the staff, and this is where I can throw this over here to you, the council. ICSC, hold on, that's the future. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Economic Outlook Conference 2024. We briefly discussed just the city council being a part of that, and maybe sponsoring. But that's for the city manager to discuss. And I'm sure that we did talk off these discussion items about ICSC real quick. And that was just to make sure that we want to see the same folks go. And if any of you have interest in going to ICSC, speak up at any time. Okay. Seeing none, hearing none.
I think you're doing a great job, Kyle.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, that's all I got for economic development. Unless you had anything, Solomon.
Okay. Parks Rec Quality Life was canceled for December. They have their hands full getting ready for Friday, and we'll meet again in January. RACVB?
Hello again. RACVB, we actually just met this morning, so this is super fresh. We have a couple things to report on filming. As the strikes have recently ended, we have seen that pick up again. with 5 inquiries so far, with 3 of those already being permitted for January, February timeframe. One thing that's a bit exciting that I want to bring some attention to, I have a magazine here which Carrie provided me from the COLA Awards, which is California on Location. It's a filming, they go out and do site selection and are a big part of how we get film productions to come in here, which is obviously a big part of Heads in Beds. And so one thing that I think is really cool is that the BLM Representative John Thomas was awarded the Public Employee of the Year at the state and federal level. So he got a nice little award. Carrie accepted that on his behalf, but wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out there. We are being recognized. Carrie serves as on the board of the Flicks Committee, so we have a lot of representation in the filming, which is really awesome. Let's see, anything else for filming? That's all I had on filming at the moment. We did talk a little bit about the community event recap. The Petrol Festival was obviously one of the big ones that the RACVB is in charge of. That was the 10th anniversary this year, earlier in November, and they're really focusing on continuing to build those tribal relationships. The recognition of the Tabatalatl tribe. Apologies if I'm still butchering that pronunciation. And so they're just continuing to work on building those relationships. CCAP Industry Days is an event that they had in conjunction with the base for recruitment. They saw really good attendance this year, probably one of the best years on record so far, and that corresponded with a bump in occupancy for the hotels as well. They're continuing to build their relationship with NOCWD and the potential to expand the industry to those consultants as well. So they are planning to have a follow-up event at the Welcome Center sometime in January, so I'll follow up with more details on that as it gets a bit closer. And then the next step that they're really looking on focusing forward, moving forward in Q1, Q2 of '24 is the billboards. So that's kind of the direction of the RACVB at the moment. I don't think I had any other additional. So Scott O'Neill did come to the RACVB and pitch his air service study for the Inyo Kern Airport, which he also presented to the Economic Development Committee. So RACVB is looking for potentially ways to support that in the second phase of the study later on in the year. So other than that, we had some ex officio reports from the Chamber of Commerce regarding the EOC, which is coming up on the 22nd of February. They are working on their new business directory for 2024, which will be in print. So if there's any businesses that are interested in joining the chamber, now is a good time to reach out. And then another thing that Rebecca from the chamber presented was they're going to be working on doing a platform refresh for their event, ridgecrestevents.com, looking to make it a little bit more user-friendly and have it be a bit more comprehensive in capturing the different events that are going on in the community. So I think that'll be awesome in terms of all the quality of life improvements that we've been doing. So I will pause there if there's any specific questions on RACVB.
No questions.
And then I did want to add one thing to the Economic Development Committee, and this is news that I just confirmed today when I was working on the rest of the map updates, which they are all live now. Just one thing, just a little fun fact is the Tap That Axe, is supposed to have their grand opening this Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. So they are on Facebook, and all the details are on there. It's going to be 21 and up, and you will have to sign a waiver and wear closed-toed shoes if you want to throw any axes. And they are asking for patience, as they know it'll probably be slammed, as we like to show a lot of love to our businesses when they first open, especially. So just wanted to add that.
No, I appreciate that. Sorry.
No worries. You didn't know. I didn't tell you at the meeting, so.
You mentioned CCAP, and I just wanted to throw a shout out there and congratulate Joan Johnson on her recognition at the CCAP Awards for her dedication and working with the base and all of her years of service. So congratulations. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Next would be City Org, which is canceled and canceled. I want to make a quick note on City Org. No, later, it doesn't matter. Finance Committee, there's no report for November. The next meeting is next week for us. Finance is on Tuesday. Again, everyone's welcome if you want to see, how the sausage is being made. Infrastructure Committee has its next meeting at the end here of December, if they are meeting. Other committees, boards, or commissions?
Yes, KernCog. Shortly after our last council meeting, I was in the KernCog meeting, which Travis explained earlier as Kern Council of Governments. I think I've gone into it before. I don't need to dive back into that. We did meet. The meetings usually go quick. This one went quick as well. The majority of the meetings is made up of updates from Caltrans representatives. All of those updates are made public. So if you see shared on social media or you see notifications from Caltrans that say these projects are going on in this district, so we're District 9, then that's the information based, pretty much the exact information that gets relayed to us in KernCog meetings. Other than that, it's very rare that anything out of pocket gets brought up or pitched. Most of the work that happens for that committee happens at the staff level, which is a good thing. Over.
Sorry, well, that was my last one, but the Boy Scouts are safe.
No worries.
There will still be a Pinewood debris car in the parade. Any other committees, boards, or commissions? Hearing none. City manager report?
I have nothing at this time.
Future agenda items. Any council members specifically with a future agenda item? Hearing none, we'll go to our mayor and council comments, and we'll start left to right. We'll let Mr. Blades be the kickoff.
Yeah, I want to reiterate my appreciation for Jessica Weston and her service to this council and to the community. It's deep. It's hard to summarize in even a couple of sentences, but I'm a big fan of freedom of the press, and I appreciate that, as long as happened in Ridgecrest, there was still a newspaper being printed, articles being, put out there. That means a lot to me. The next thing, a little bit heavier. Tomorrow is December the 7th, as anybody who has a calendar knows, but it's the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, 1941, just before 8 a.m. I just wanted to keep that fresh in everybody's memory. If you have members of that generation, the greatest generation, you understand the kind of impact it had on our country as a whole. And I think it's always important to keep it at the forefront of our minds. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Rajaraman.
Just want to thank Jessica for her support and reporting the events from the City Council. So I wish her good luck in her new assignment. Hope she will be a great asset to the Sarcoso Community College. And
It's up to you. I intend to also, but feel free.
Most of you know our Congressman Kevin McCarthy has resigned. He'll be resigning with effect from the end of this month. So I just want to thank him for his staunch support to Ridgecrest and his approachability to the community of Ridgecrest. So we always had that link and contact with Congressman Kevin McCarthy, and he heard our problems all the time. So he was there for us to support all the time. So I thank him profusely and wish him good luck in his whatever plans he has for his future. Thank you, sir.
Doc.
I just want to thank Jessica too for her work that she's done over the years with the Daily Independent, and didn't want to make her cry again, so she left. But I read her articles in the paper. I really enjoyed the personal aspect of the articles. She'd bring into her own, personal life and her fairness over all these years. When her articles were written in paper, I felt she did a very good job in creating an unbiased report of the issue, and she'll be sorely missed. So hopefully somebody will fill in. And same with the announcements of our Representative McCarthy going to resign. So hopefully we can find somebody that will, I'm going to be optimistic and have even bigger shoes and fill that spot. It's going to be a tough one to fill. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out over this next election cycle. But for Ridgecrest and Kern County, I think it's a definitely hit. And so we'll be having to work through that, but anyway, I wish him well in his future endeavors.
Mr. Gorman.
He stirs, he rouses to life. Jessica, I really always appreciated what you've done with that newspaper. And without having you here, I'm diminished. We're a light in the information world here in Ridgecrest, in the second largest city of Kern. We should have a viable newspaper, one that keeps the record going of what's happening here, one that's not on any particular side of any issue, one that shares the information with us on an ongoing basis. I weep that we don't have that. I'd love to have a radio station too, as long as I'm wishing. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. I have, so what's the bet tonight for time? Because I have 8 things. So I just want to make sure who's going to win here. Okay, good. Well, I've got several items. Everyone who said these nice things about Jessica, the best thing I always remember about Jessica, and I appreciate her and I don't want to make her cry, is she always treated the role that we hold up here with respect. And that was that she never demanded or attacked, or she would ask for the comment or the question, and she would always do it with respect. And I think that is a sign for how somebody handles themselves professionally, and I appreciate that from her in all those years. So I'm gonna hit the light ones, and I'll hit the heavy ones. The light ones, let me start by thanking the Tunnels for Tower crew. They sent us a letter that I'm going to just read real quickly, which is, Dear Mayor Bruin, it was an honor to get to know the good people of Ridgecrest. Thank you for the warm welcome and amazing escort into the city. Thank you for the honor of receiving the city seal and for supporting our mission. As we travel across this beautiful country, we meet everyday Americans who have more in common than they have differences. Ridgecrest is now a part of our Tunnels to Tower family, and we are so grateful. All the best. Tunnels for Towers was a great opportunity for this community. I hope everyone got a chance to see it. We deeply appreciate them coming out and bringing such a wonderful exhibit to our community. And as we've heard, it did wonders for our fairgrounds and for just raising the bar, just continuously raising the bar and the quality that we provide to our community. The second one is I just wanted to address, there's been some confusion online. I just want to address that there are no pending changes to the city's trash process. What you are hearing about in the trash world right now in our community is all related to the Kern County implementation of SB 1383. As you know, the city of Ridgecrest implemented our program on January 1st, 2023. After approval in July of 2022, we were 18 months ahead of where Kern County is today. And our implementation model has been seen as a example of how we do it right. And Megan is not in the room anymore, but she has been the trash guru, and thank her for everything that she's continued to do. If you have questions about the Kern County trash implementation and you are a county resident, I encourage you to reach out to Kern County Supervisor Peters to participate in the education process. But it is a vastly different proposal from the city, and it has a vastly different cost and proposed payment method. It is not any changes to the current City of Ridgecrest biweekly trash service. The Carmageddon and what continues to be the wonderful intersection of Ridgecrest Boulevard and China Lake. Guys, it's going to continue to be this way for a little bit. I understand it's inconvenient. I understand it gets frustrating, but I promise you this is all for the betterment of our community, and we continue to move forward in improving it. I want to commend our Public Works Director, Mr. Reed. You guys don't understand all the frustrations that man has gone through with Carmageddon, but I know that he continues to fight and advocate for a couple very important things, which is number one, we have codes and rules that we need to follow. If our contractors aren't following them, Travis has been on them like, what is it, white on rice? Is that a good one to say? Fly on. Right? I was going to use the fly one, but I chose to go with the white on rice. okay? And that's important because while we don't want to always have to have the red tape and the rules and the regulations, they are all there to protect you, the tax-paying citizen, from the city becoming liable for the errors, omissions, and, quite honestly, inconsistencies of contractors. And so thank you for continuing to fight and to defend the city in that regard. The project is going to continue. Christmas time, you will be driving around the middle of the intersection. It's not going to be over tomorrow. I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your understanding. And I hope that after you drive through any frustration at China Lake and Ridgecrest Boulevard, that you continue to drive north and make a left-hand turn on Ward Avenue and drive all the way down, okay? And ask yourself if your car panhandled out or not on the dip, which is no longer on Ward Avenue. And I wanted to again thank, these are projects, that is a multi-million-dollar project that was years in the making to resurface and repair Ward Avenue from China Lake Boulevard all the way down to Drummond, and it is fantastic. If you've driven on it, it's smooth, your oil pan is not in the ditch, and more importantly, we just made improvements to improve that sewer system, which already performed, I gotta tell you, performed pretty well on August 20th, but now is only further improved by the continued infrastructure work we do. And it is all headed towards that wastewater treatment plant, which continues to be barreling towards a kickoff in 2025, and will be the next major improvement to our infrastructure, our sewer system, and a long overdue project, years in the making. So thank you for continuing to see these long-term projects to their completion. We continue to have a lot of pool and parks projects. If you're not aware, we had a town hall in November where we had a chance to look over how the pool project is progressing. If you would like any information, please reach out. It's available or on social media. You can drop me an email. I'll share with you anything that's going on, but we're making very good progress on the pool. And if you weren't as part of that town hall, and I don't remember if I've mentioned it before, but we did make some small changes to make sure that we are encompassing the entire area and not leaving any blight behind that area. That's why I mentioned Helmers Park going away. We're gonna make it look like a great facility from corner to corner. And Ron's giving me the smile, so. That might be an indication that I fought hard for that one. Smile, exactly. I knew it wasn't a smirk. Let's make sure. So I'm through 4 of them. Okay. Now it gets harder. Actually, we'll do the fun one first, then we'll get to the final hard one. Want to also reiterate the comments of Councilman Rajaratnam. Kevin. He's Congressman McCarthy to most of us. For me, he's my friend Kevin. I've had the pleasure of being his friend for almost 20 years. I cannot tell you how many times we have had conversations or meetings or conversations about Ridgecrest, and I really want to reiterate my deep appreciation for him. But I want to put it in terms that the public understands. Elected officials, guys, this is a thankless job. It is a desperately thankless job, okay? And it would be the easiest thing in the world to say, bye. And he's been in public service for nearly 25 years and personally suffered in my personal opinion, an inappropriate disgrace for the amount of work that he had continued to do for our nation, for his constituents, and for his community. But that's not where I want the focus on. I want the focus on October 2019. In July, we had the 2 earthquakes. Nearly $4 billion worth of damage to that base. And if we did not have a congressman that was as connected, worked as hard, as dedicated, as committed to his constituents and to his communities, I want you to take the moment and hear it once again. I want you to imagine the world we would live in today if we had not secured reconstruction funding prior to COVID-19. If you do not hear anything else tonight, please take that sentence home with you. in your appreciation for everything Congressman McCarthy has done for the city of Ridgecrest. It's no small factor. The other advocate was Senator Feinstein, who passed away, right? Those two fought for us. And if that doesn't happen in the fall of 2019, I want you to imagine the amount of momentum we gained by having that funding secured when COVID started and we were able to leave designers working at home and people getting ready and all of those things that were secured. Ridgecrest could look very, very different today if it was not for Congressman McCarthy. Kevin, wherever you end up, you have our deep appreciation as a community and our thanks for your years of service. And I wish you and your family only the very best in the future. And I hope to continue to work with you for many, many years to come. With that, we turn to the harder topics. And that harder topic is, of course, what's happened with our regional hospital announcements over the last 2 weeks. We cannot run the hospital. The city of Ridgecrest is not a public health agency, and we cannot run the hospital. Everybody out there who says, can you do this? Why aren't you doing that? We cannot do that. It's not in our authority, nor is it in our spec of operating. Our job is to advocate for this community, to provide city services, and to do the best we can to make the quality of life better for every single person that lives in it. Losing the maternity aspect to the hospital is a blow to our community. It is a recruitment blow. It is a retention blow. We know it. And we are continuing to advocate with the hospital as diligently as we can while needing to understand what we can do to help and support. But I want to reach out to everyone out there on social media. There was an interesting photo I got sent to me this morning. And I guess it was something on social media that I didn't know about. It has a picture of a keyboard, and it says, actually, let me read it exactly. Anybody who wants to see it, since I think it goes to my point. It says, "Not now, sweetie. Mommy's cyberbullying the mayor." When we go out on social media and we tear at this community in our words and in our language and in how we respond to people and in how we speak to each other, we are showing the rest of the world that is sometimes how we act. And I really encourage people to consider that. The hospital is an important resource to this community, and the idea of losing it is terrible for this community. The idea of losing a service is a terrible thing for this community. But tearing at it and tearing at the strings that make and bind the community isn't helping the situation. You're only harming it. You really are. And so I encourage you to engage in dialogue. I encourage you to find information. I encourage you to go out and ask questions. Make phone calls, advocate for us, do all those things. But remember that the rest of the world does see how we act as a community. And that's kind of an important lesson to understand. I want to commend the hospital. If you weren't aware, they announced this morning that the Eastern Current Hospital District had voted to approve annexing the hospital into its district, which is going to be a multiple-month process. There's analysis that needs to be done. There's understanding that needs to be done, what the impacts of this are. But I commend our hospital for continuing to look for solutions for problems rather than choosing to just say, this service is gone, tough. They are continuing to work. And while we all have our opinions and our disagreements, I believe it's in our best interest as a community to focus on making sure that we are doing as much as we can as a community. And with that, I hope to have the hospital provide the council some additional information in the months to come so we can more fully understand how we can help and how our community can help in the process. We hope to have that happen. If we can make that happen, we'll communicate that further in the future. But at the end of the day, remember, we're all in this together, and the more we tear at each other, we're only harming ourselves. We're not improving the situation. And it was tricky. It's a tricky one. With that, I also want to thank everyone out there who is communicating and understanding and trying to provide that knowledge to the community. There's not a lot of ways to get information out to the community other than your participation in here. So thank you to everyone who came, provided public comments, continues to advocate for themselves, for their businesses, for their beliefs. This is an area where we welcome that. It may not seem like we take it all in and respond in immediacy, but I promise you it is. And the perfect example of that is the story I've told you tonight 3 different times about Gina and the approval of that CDBG. I promise you, every one of our elected officials up here is dedicated to serving this community because it is a thankless job, and we're not doing it because we're out to, I promise you, we're not out to do it to make a buck or to make a name for ourselves. Because neither one seemed to work effectively at a time. So thank you for being committed to understanding that we are here working for you and that we're continuing to work to make the best possible Ridgecrest. With that, I hope to see as many of you as possible 2 days from now, 5 p.m. Please come out to the tree lighting. It's going to be a lot of fun. This will mark our 4th, right? Or 5th? 5th event brought on, am I right with 5? Yes. Yeah, 5th event brought to this community this year since the passage in Measure P last November. That's 5. Everyone has been a little bit better than the previous one, and everyone continues to raise the quality of life and to bring this community together. I hope to see as many of you out there. Please shake my hand, say hello. If I'm hobbling a little bit, I apologize, but I look forward to seeing you all out there, and I wish you all a wonderful week, and I hope to see you on Friday. Thank you. We're adjourned.